Scary stories about Munger Road have been told for many years, but the most well-known legend is the horrible accident that allegedly took place at the railroad crossing 1 mile south of Stearns Road. The date of the accident is unknown, but the legend says a loaded school bus was traveling over the tracks when the engine suddenly cut out, leaving it directly in the path of a freight train. As the bus driver panicked and frantically tried to start the engine, the warning signals at the crossing went off and an incoming train came into view. The train sounded the horn repeatedly as it barreled down the tracks towards Munger Road, but before the driver could evacuate the passengers, the unstoppable train plowed right through the bus, leaving it completely destroyed. The alleged accident was catastrophic and gruesome, and everyone on board the school bus lost their lives, including the driver. The scary legend of the school bus accident on Munger Road brings many thrill seekers to the infamous train crossing, where a supernatural event is said to occur at night. The legend says that if you sprinkle baby powder onto the bumper of your car and then park on the tracks in neutral, the spirits of the children will push your vehicle to safety and their handprints will appear in the powder. The scary story was even depicted in a scene from the 2011 horror movie Munger Road, where 4 teenagers bring baby powder to the train crossing and test the legend themselves. The railroad crossing has also been the scene of ghost sightings that are said to be connected with the mysterious train accident or an unsolved murder case, which I cover later in this video. There are stories about apparitions appearing at the crossing after dark and the eerie sound of screaming and crying coming from the darkness of the train tracks and forests nearby. Ghost hunters and late-night drivers at the train stop have also reported seeing flashing train lights approaching in the distance, but as the lights get closer, they slowly fade away and no train can be seen. Grim stories about Munger Road being haunted by kids who died in a terrible train accident are chilling, but did this fatal accident really happen, or is the whole thing simply made-up folklore? Local historians have researched the history of the railroad crossing on Munger Road many times, and no record of the train accident has ever been found to prove it happened. I also conducted my own research by looking through dozens of newspaper archives, and I wasn't able to find any articles about a train colliding with a bus on Munger Road. If a tragic event of such magnitude really happened on this road, it most certainly would have been reported by multiple newspapers around the country. Even though a fatal bus accident on the Munger Road train tracks never happened, the story's details are almost identical to a real crash that took place in Utah on December 1st of 1938. The horrible accident unfolded on the morning of a blizzard when the school bus traveled over a railroad crossing that wasn't equipped with warning signals. The bus driver traveled over the same tracks dozens of times before and knew the train schedule, but on the morning of the accident, the driver was totally unaware that a freight train was running late and approaching the railroad crossing at a speed of 52 miles per hour. The visibility was almost zero that morning due to the blizzard, but when the driver didn't hear a train coming, he drove over the tracks and caused one of the worst train accidents in Utah's history. The speeding freight train hit the center of the school bus so hard that the bus was cut into 2 pieces, killing 25 of the 38 students on board, including the driver. The scene of the crash was gruesome. Debris from the mutilated school bus, along with human body parts, were scattered all over the train tracks a half a mile from the crash scene. Police and rescue workers walked up and down the tracks with baskets collecting human remains, and many of the victims were so badly mangled they could only be identified using dental records. 15 students on board the school bus survived the devastating crash, as well as 14 others who just happened to miss the bus that morning due to the blizzard. Although the legend of the bus accident on Munger Road is completely made up, the paranormal activity that is said to occur there could actually be connected to an unsolved murder case from 1982. Munger Road runs directly through the middle of a massive 3,000-acre forest preserve that contains a lake and dozens of hiking trails. The park is the largest nature preserve in the county and a favorite spot for hikers, but it also has a dark history of being used as a dumping ground for murder victims. On August 31st, 1982, a forest ranger discovered the lifeless body of a woman in a secluded area near the railroad crossing on Munger Road. The woman was later identified as Lorraine Bees, a 21-year-old waitress from Mount Prospect, Illinois, who disappeared while walking home from the restaurant she worked at. Police reports indicate Lorraine was either assaulted and strangled in the woods near the Munger Road train tracks or dumped there later after the crime was committed. In the early 2000s, detectives found a suspect in the murder case, but unfortunately that individual passed away in 2003 and the case remains unsolved to this day. Another Munger Road murder happened on October 28th of 2000 when 2 men lured a homeless man by the name of Wayne Conrad into the forest preserve and then beat him to death with a tire iron and stole $8 from his wallet. The man's decomposing body was found by hikers several days later, and both of the men were arrested and charged with murder after the killer bragged about the beating and even drove friends to the crime scene. The killer was found guilty at the end of a second trial and received 35 years in prison after an accomplice testified against him in exchange for the murder charge being dropped. Then on January 29th of 2022, the body of a man who was shot 11 times was found on the side of Munger Road, only minutes away from the haunted train tracks. The shooting happened on the road around midnight, and the police were flooded with calls after residents reported hearing gunshots. Less than 2 months after the shooting, a suspect in the crime was arrested and charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. The shooting was believed to be gang-related. Munger Road has gained a sinister reputation as being one of the most haunted roads in Illinois, even though the story of the school bus accident is completely made up and likely confused with the Utah train crash I mentioned earlier. The creepy legend of ghostly handprints forming in baby powder on car bumpers is also a recycled story that's been used for many haunted roads with secluded train tracks and bridges. In San Antonio, Texas, the secluded train crossing on Cheyenne Road is said to be haunted by kids who died in a horrible bus accident, and it uses the same exact baby powder story from Munger Road. And even in northern Illinois, Bloods Point Road has a similar version of the story, but instead of the school bus getting hit by a train, the bus allegedly drove off of the bridge. I made a whole video about the legends of Bloods Point Road, which can be found in my Haunted Roads playlist at the end of this video. Many locals don't believe in the scary stories of Munger Road, but others believe the road could really be haunted by someone who died in an unknown tragedy, or maybe the unsolved murder from 1982 is part of it. The dark history of murder on Munger Road is scary, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the haunting, but it might explain some of the strange things that happen in the area close to the train tracks. Since the tragic death of Lorraine Bees in 1982, there have been reports of screams coming from the wooded area behind the railroad crossing where the body was found. This is something I personally experienced at another haunted location many years ago, and it's quite terrifying when it happens. Some late-night drivers have also reported seeing a bright glowing light hovering over the road in the vicinity of the train tracks when no train is present. In one account, a driver said the light became bigger and brighter as they drove towards it, but then vanished upon reaching the train crossing. When the driver passed the train tracks and looked in the mirror, the light appeared again, but when they turned the vehicle around to drive back, the mysterious light was gone and it wasn't seen again. The supernatural things that are said to happen on the dark and mysterious road are not exclusive to the train crossing either, according to the story of one resident who lives there. In 2010, a woman living on a 3-acre horse ranch on Munger Road was interviewed by a local newspaper and told stories of unexplainable things happening on the property. The woman bought the home not knowing anything about the road's haunted legends, but learned about them later after having a series of bizarre experiences in the house and barn. The woman said she often heard cracking sounds coming from a large bay window in the living room, as if the glass was breaking into pieces, but the window showed no signs of damage and was fully intact. Doors that were left open inside the home would later be found closed, and on 3 separate occasions, the ghost of a young girl was seen on the property. The woman also reported the horses behaving strangely in the sand arena, and for reasons unknown, they avoided one particular corner of the stall. No other information is known about these events, or if the activity continues to this day, but the stories definitely add to the eeriness of Munger Road. I didn't experience anything out of the ordinary during my visit to the train tracks on Munger Road, but the wooded section south of Stearns Road is very dark and creepy at night, and it makes you wonder if any of the ghost stories could actually be true. The road is now paved and developed, but many years ago it was gravel, and it can even be seen on this historic map from 1904. Perhaps some unknown tragedy occurred on this road a long time ago, or the stories are merely extensions of the bus legend that was disproven. But what do you think about Munger Road and the alleged haunting? Have you ever visited the road, and did you have a paranormal experience? Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel now to see future videos about haunted roads, cemeteries, and more. And if you want to watch more videos like this one now, click on the Haunted Roads playlist you see on the screen.